Today, I'm going to assemble a set of bagpipes from scratch, and I'll show you step by step how to put your pipes together from all of the different parts to make your pipes ready to play. You'll be able to watch and learn about all of the different components, tools, and special tricks I use to build my own pipes, and it's all based on my over 30 years of experience as a piper and bagpipe teacher. I'll show you every single step of the process, including unboxing the pipes, tying on the pipe bag, installing the water trap and moisture control system, the blowpipe and valve, and the perfect angle blowpipe positioner. I'll show you how to install your drone cords for a perfect fit and a classic look. We'll look at hemping the joints and tuning slides, and talk about the advantages of different materials like hemp, dental floss, and waxed nylon. In part 2, I'll show you how to thread your drone reed seats so your drone reeds never fall out, and how to install a new set of drone reeds. We'll set up the pipe chanter, tone protector humidity controlling reed cap, and look at selecting pipe chanter reeds from the tone protector reed case. Finally, I'll show you the secrets for oiling your pipes. And I've put together a list of links for all the supplies and tools that I use in this video so you can get what you need to get your pipes put together perfectly on your own. So let's get started. Welcome to bagpipelessons.com, where you'll find the inspiration and knowledge to fulfill your piping dreams. When I buy a set of pipes, I always set them up myself so they're exactly the way I want them. There are so many options out there for the various components of the pipes, and I want to use the ones that are the very best and set up perfectly for me. So what I'm going to show you in this video is exactly the way my pipes are set up. I've also assembled sets of pipes for my students and for many other pipers using this exact same setup, and they have all been very happy with the results in terms of quality, efficiency, tone, and overall playing comfort. Links to everything in this video are available in the description below. All of the parts and accessories are what I use personally and what I recommend for you. They should work well for you regardless of your make of pipes or your experience level. If you have questions about anything in this video, please ask them in the comments below. If you're looking for a set of pipes and you don't have the time or interest or experience to build your pipes yourself, reach out to me. I'm happy to do it for you. You can find me on my website at bagpipelessons.com/contact. Here we go. Let's get into it. So when you are assembling your pipes, in addition to the bagpipes, you're going to need a pipe bag and a water trap. You're going to need a pipe chanter. You're going to need a tone protector chanter cap. You're going to need the drone cords and some zip ties to hold them together. You're going to want a moisture control system like the dry flow, a tone protector reed case with some reeds. You're going to need your drone reeds and a mouthpiece with a valve. You're also going to need probably some hemp or some dental floss or some waxed nylon lacing tape, and we will get into that. So this set of pipes that I'm setting up is a set made by Dave Atherton. Atherton pipes are the best pipes in the world, in my opinion. That's what I play. He's a modern maker, and they are very hard to get and very valuable. So if you have a set of Athertons, count yourself as lucky. If you're looking for a set, reach out to me through my website. They are very hard to get, but I might be able to help you. Dave Atherton wraps each piece of the pipes individually and labels them. So you want to keep the outside tenor top with the outside tenor bottom section with the outside tenor stock. Don't get those tenor pieces swapped. If you look on the inside of the Athertons, really shiny and smooth like glass. So the first thing we're going to do before we put on the pipe bag is we're going to do the moisture control system. So I love the dry flow moisture control system. It's made by Bannatyne, lightweight, really lasts a long time, keeps your drone reeds and the inside of your drones dry. Comes with 3 tubes with desiccant inside. It's an indicating desiccant, which means it changes color based on if it's used up or not. When it's new and dry, the rocks are orange, and then when they've absorbed a lot of moisture and they need to be dried out, they turn dark green. The cool thing about these dry flows is they are very easy to install and very easy to use. They come with these rubber cups, and the rubber cups attach perfectly to the grooves at the bottom of your drone stocks. So those grooves on the bottom of the drone stocks were traditionally used when you tied in a traditional hide bag for the leather of the bag and the tie-in cord to fit right into that groove. We still use those grooves with the modern bags, and they work perfectly with this dry flow setup. So once you get those cups on there, the next thing I like to do is tape them on. Now, probably those cups will stay on nice and tight without the tape, but I like to use electrical tape. And for this, I have this wonderful extra tall or extra wide electrical tape that works perfectly for several parts of this bag assembly process, but it works really well for attaching the cups to the stocks. Just do one wrap around, and then I trim it off, and I like to trim it at an angle. I've just found that having that angle with that point keeps the tape on there a little bit more securely and doesn't unravel. The downside of attaching the cups with the tape is that you have to take the stocks completely all the way off if you want to take the cups off. I've never had that issue before. I love my dry flow system. I would never play without it. So put the cups on, put a little bit of tape on there, and they will be nice and snug. The next thing we're going to do is install the stocks into the bag. But before I get into that, I'll just pause the video for a second. There are lots of options for pipe bags out there. Traditionally, we played natural hide or skin bags, meaning leather. And for generations, that's the only option we had were these leather bags, either cow skin or sheepskin, typically. And then in the 1980s, the first synthetic bags came out, and the first synthetic bags were Gore-Tex, actual Gore-Tex material. And what people loved about the Gore-Tex was the Gore-Tex material is breathable, but it's airtight. So that's what you want in a pipe bag. You want it to be airtight, so you're not losing air and you're not leaking, and you want it to be breathable. So the hot breath and the moisture that you blow into the bag when you're playing will evaporate or, escape through the bag through the material. A rubber bag would not work because it would seal it all up. So that's why we like Gore-Tex raincoats instead of rubber raincoats, because the rubber holds all that sweat and moisture in, whereas the Gore-Tex lets that moisture come through the material. So the Gore-Tex bags were popular for that reason, but what they lack was the traditional feel. And a lot of pipers who played those traditional leather or skin bags, they like the feel of it. They like the shape of it. They like the stiffness of it. They like how it feels when it's inflated. It's a little bit easier to control, has a little bit of weight to it. So then a great innovation was the hybrid pipe bag. And my favorite hybrid pipe bags are made by Bannatyne. So they are leather on the outside. So it has a traditional feel of a leather bag. It has the stiffness and it holds its shape nicely. A Gore-Tex bag just collapses like the sleeve of a raincoat. But what we have is we have a zipper, and on the inside, we have a synthetic material. So this is a synthetic material that's breathable, like a Gore-Tex. And what this means is that your bag will be totally airtight, but it is breathable, and it does have the traditional feel and shape of a leather bag. That's why these hybrid bags are so popular. Bannatyne makes them in several sizes. In my bagpipelessons.com shop, I have them in small, extended small, and this one here, which is the Willie McCallum size. So Willie is one of the world's top pipers, and he designed this bag to be, it's a little bit larger in the back, like a medium size in the back, but it's like a small in the front. So it's a little bit cut away and tapered here in the neck area. And the positioning of the stocks, it's like a small up in the front with a little bit more space in the back. So this is a very popular bag. I play the small bag. That's my favorite because I like the feeling of that smaller bag to get it higher up under my arm for a more secure fit. But a lot of people really love this Willie McCallum bag. Bannatyne makes this version with the zipper on the bottom, which I recommend. They also make one with the zipper on the side. I don't like the one with the side zipper because the zipper is right where my arm is squeezing on the bag. So the bottom zipper is perfect because it gives you easy access to the bag, and the zipper does not get in your way when you're playing. So check those out on my shop. So the way we're going to install the stocks into the bag is through the zipper. Open up the zipper. You're going to insert your stocks into the inside of the bag, and then you're going to push it through that grommet. I take a cup of water and I just put a little bit of water with my finger on the inside of that rubber grommet just to let the stock slide through a little bit easier. I would not use soap or oil or anything greasy. Just a little bit of water is all you need. And then you're going to see I position the stock so it's just below the hole, and then push it down on a secure tabletop, and you just push it down and you'll feel the grommet of the bag sort of traveling down the stock over those ridges, and you get it down as far as you can. A little bit of tugging and yanking, and these bags are really, really strong. Don't worry about damaging the bag. These are really tough. I've never had one fail. And you know you've gone all the way in when you can see that the rubber cup is flush with the inside of the bag. If you see a gap there where that rubber cup is maybe, has a little bit of a space before it touches the bag, you need to push it in a little bit further or pull it in. So you're going to repeat that process with both tenors, keeping in mind to get the correct tenor in the correct hole on the bag if your tenors are labeled middle and outside. If your drones are not labeled, they're basically going to be interchangeable and just either one goes in either spot. Now I can take the label off that outside tenor because it's going to be in the bag in that position. Okay, now that we've got the 3 drones in, we're next going to do the blowpipe stock. Blowpipe stock installs exactly the same way. There's no rubber cup because we don't have a dry flow to attach, but the Bannatyne bag does come with this excellent water trap tube with a bottle at the end. So you do hemp it up and stick it in the bottom of the stock. So I like to hemp it up first before I get the stock installed into the bag. Now, what I use is wax nylon lacing tape. I'm going to pause here. Wax nylon lacing tape is like dental floss. It's a nylon string that's pre-waxed, and it's very similar to dental floss, but it's a lot thicker. And the reason I love this is that it lasts for forever. Hemp, we talk about hemping joints, and we use this string called hemp, which is really linen string or linen thread. And if you get the waxed hemp, it has wax on it. Now that works, but the linen thread is a natural material, and even with the wax wears down and breaks down, and the hemp will absorb moisture, and there's some problems with that. When it absorbs moisture, it swells up, and any joint that it's in is going to get tight, and then when it dries out, it shrinks, and then the joint is going to get too loose. So you have this issue of swelling and shrinking that can lead to tightness or looseness. You don't have that problem with dental floss or wax nylon lacing tape because they are synthetic material, so they don't absorb moisture. Also, it's waxed, which helps with that, and it just doesn't disintegrate. It will last for a really, really long time. So that's why I love the wax nylon lacing tape and the dental floss. I use it everywhere, but if you don't want to use it everywhere, definitely use it in these 2 places. 3 places rather. On your blowpipe, because that's where you get a lot of moisture. On your practice chanter, if you're using hemp on your practice chanter, you switch to dental floss. And then right here where I put the water trap tube into the bottom of the stock. That gets a ton of moisture on it. And if you have waxed hemp on there, it's just going to be problematic. It's going to be falling out. It's going to be getting really gross and kind of rotten as it gets moisture into it and starts to disintegrate. So what I'm doing here is just wrapping it on there, onto that black 90 elbow joint, and testing it in the bottom of the stock for a nice tight fit. It's pretty close. Now the last thing that I do is I use my waxed dental floss for a final wrap. The nylon lacing tape is kind of thick. The dental floss is much thinner, so just to get it the perfect tightness, I use the dental floss as a final layer. little bit of water into the grommet, insert the blowpipe stock into the bag, and push it through. Now you can see, I'm pointing out here, the blowpipe stock is shorter than the Chanter stock. Don't get those messed up. Shorter for the blowpipe, slightly longer for the Chanter. Even longer than that are the tenors, and then the longest is the bass. Push it through all the way, nice and snug all the way through. Now we are going to go to the Chanter stock. So our 3 drones and our blowpipe have the rubber grommets, which work really, really well. The Chanter does not have a grommet. It's just a tube opening of the material on the bag. You can see here. And because there's no grommet, it gives you the option to position the Chanter at different depths. So, but also the challenge is you have to find a way to get that stock to attach to the bag in a way that's airtight and secure and is not going to come loose over time. So what I've figured out is a system where I take the stock and it comes with a rubber O-ring, and I put the rubber O-ring into the groove of the stock, but I don't attach, and then I'm going to attach the hose clamp around the bag, around the stock, and tighten it, but I'm not going to put the clamp on the O-ring. I'm going to put the clamp below the O-ring, and I use the O-ring when I can feel where the O-ring is, so then I know that my clamp is going solid right on the stock below the O-ring. But before I do that, I'm going to wrap a bunch of electrical tape on the stock. The electrical tape is going to function as like a gasket, so it has a little bit of give. So I'm going to have the clamp going on the bag, and inside the bag is the stock with electrical tape. And I have never had one of these fail or leak. It is really airtight. It is really secure. So let's take a look. So first thing I do is get the O-ring in the groove of the Chanter stock. Takes a little bit of work, but it's stretchy. Perfect. Next thing I'm going to do is take some electrical tape. You can use the big thick stuff or the wide stuff that we used before. This is the 1/2-inch electrical tape, the same stuff I use for tuning my Chanter notes, and do a bunch of wraps here. One thing I'm trying to do, in addition to having that tape act as a gasket, is I'm trying to build it up a little bit so that it's more parallel. The stock is tapered, so I add a little bit more tape on the bottom, and then I try to fill it up so I get a nice thick wad of tape there. And that's going to be a really nice surface for that bag to compress down onto. Stick it in at the right depth. There it is. Now I can feel inside there, I can feel the O-ring, and I'm going to slip the metal hose clamp. Before I put the clamp on, I put a little bit of extra tape around the bag. I have seen people that the pipe bag gets pinched by that clamp, and you can actually get a little bit of a tiny leak there. So a little bit of tape just as a protection. So we have the stock with tape, and then the bag with tape, and then we have our hose clamp. I like to have the part of the clamp that sticks out that has a screw on it in the back so that it's behind and sort of hidden when I'm playing. Now I move that hose clamp up so that I got my O-ring here, and then the clamp is just below it, not over it, just below it on the tape. Position the screw part of the clamp towards the back, get it in position, everything's lined up, nice and straight, and then I tighten it with a screwdriver, or you can use a crescent wrench or a nut driver or something like that. Get it nice and snug. You really want it tight. If you overdo it with a wrench, you can actually strip the hose clamp, so just be careful as you overdo it as you're tightening it up. You can overdo it if you're using a wrench or a socket driver, and you can actually strip the clamp. So just be careful. You want it nice and snug, but you don't want to strip the metal. Finally, I like to put some of this extra wide electrical tape over the clamp just to protect my pipe bag cover and my hands from that metal. These clamps work really, really well, but it is metal and it's got some sort of sharp little edges to it. So a little bit of electrical tape around that just to protect it. Now, the final thing that I'm going to do in terms of tying in the bag is I'm going to put a little bit of electrical tape around each one of the stocks that use the grommets. You don't need to do this. These Bannatyne grommets are very tight and very airtight, but I like to do this just for a little bit of extra security so that those stocks are snug in those rubber grommets and they are not going to turn and they are not going to wiggle. I've never had a problem, but this just makes me feel extra confident that my bag is sealed up and not ever going to leak. Okay, that's it. Our bag is totally tied in. We call it tying in because in the old days with leather bags, we would tie them in with string. But here we've got a clamp and we've got 4 grommets, but we still call it tying in a bag. So our bag is totally tied in here. Everything's all taped up and ready to go. Now we're going to start assembling things. You can go ahead and take your 3 dry flow moisture control canister tubes and stick them in the bag, and they are just going to fit right into the bottoms of those rubber cups that we taped in before. And we can take our tube water trap with the bottle and the chamois, and we can get that in there, and that just fits in like any other hemp joint. At this point, we got our tube, we got our 3 dry flow tubes installed, and we can move on to the next step. If you've never played with the moisture control system or tubes before, you might be thinking, wow, there's a lot of stuff in there. Don't worry about it. There's plenty of room. You will not even notice it when you're playing. You might notice a little bit of bulk or weight. You will get used to that in a couple days, and you're going to love this system. Keep your drones nice and dry and stay in tune. Now, your Bannatyne bag does come with a little tube of zipper lubricant. It's not necessary, but it's just a nice idea to put a little dollop of lubricant in the zipper and then open it and close it a couple times. It doesn't do anything for sealing the zipper. The zipper is totally airtight without the lubrication, but what it does, it makes it easier to open and close your zipper, so it just reduces on the wear and tear on the zipper if you're opening it to get inside to get to your moisture control system. Typically, pipers will have a valve at the bottom of the blowpipe, a little rubber flapper valve. So every time you take out your blowpipe, you can see that little flapper valve. And when you blow on it, it opens. And then when you take a breath, it shuts so all the air that's in the bag doesn't escape. I hate those little valves because they're finicky, they break easily, they leak. So my favorite valve is actually inside the mouthpiece. This is a mouthpiece I got from Ayrshire Bagpipes. And it's a great mouthpiece because the flapper valve is actually inside the mouthpiece. It's totally protected, out of sight, out of mind. It's airtight, it's free-flowing. It's really a fantastic valve, and I don't have to worry about it getting damaged or leaking. This mouthpiece that I'm using has the oval tip, which I really like for comfort. For going in my mouth, I prefer the oval versus the round. I'm not sure if Ayrshire still makes this oval mouthpiece with the built-in valve. At one point, they were making the oval mouthpiece without a valve, and they were making a round mouthpiece with a valve. And at one point, they were making an oval mouthpiece with a valve, which is my favorite. I'm not sure if they're making that. You'll have to reach out to them and see what they have available. So you can see the valve inside there, and this is a standard mouthpiece blowpipe thread. So just unscrew the mouthpiece that came with the pipes, and the Ayrshire mouthpiece will screw right on there, perfect threads. Depending on the make of your pipes, you might need to add a little bit of hemp or Teflon tape on there to get a snug fit. Now, next thing I'm going to do is put on a rubber mouthpiece protector. This is a really cool thing that will help the comfort of your pipes. So my perfect angle blowpipe positioner, which I'll show you in a second, comes with a couple of these really nice, thick, durable, long-lasting mouthpiece protectors. And the idea is you put it on the end of your mouthpiece as a softener so that you're not biting right on that hard plastic of your mouthpiece. Now for years, I used to just use that hard plastic and bite down and just get used to feeling that tightness in my jaw, and actually chipped my tooth once and had to have that repaired. I've heard from lots of pipers who have that same issue of jaw pain and dental issues from biting down on that hard plastic mouthpiece. So these rubber mouthpiece protectors are really great. The ones that I send with my perfect angle blowpipe positioner are thicker than the typical ones that you can find in different bagpipe shops. And I like this because it's a little bit softer and they're much more durable. It can be a challenge to get it on. So one thing that really helps is to get it wet, dip it in some water, and then try to squish it on the end. There's also a great tool called a spreader pliers. So these look like pliers, but you notice that they're actually closed, but then when you squeeze on the handles, they open. So they work in the reverse of your typical pliers, which is that they're open and then you use them to grab onto things. So what you want to do is slip your rubber mouthpiece protector onto the spreader and it spreads it right open. Piece of cake. So between the spreader pliers and the water, you should be able to get that thing really nice and open wide, get it onto your mouthpiece, and then pull it right off. So with the spreader pliers, the rubber mouthpiece protector, and a little bit of water, you should be able to get that on nice and easy and look forward to a more comfortable feeling in your mouth when you're playing. The next step you're going to want is the perfect angle blowpipe positioner. Now this is a product I invented to address the issue and the challenge that we have with bagpipes, which is we are the only instrument where we actually hold part of the instrument in our mouth with our teeth. There are lots of instruments that go to the mouth, but we're usually, like a clarinet or a saxophone, you're holding it in your hands. But the blowpipe is kind of doing its own thing. And depending on your pipe bag and the size of pipe bag and how the blowpipe stock is tied in, you can really get a lot of pressure. And that blowpipe wants to fly away. So that's what the perfect angle blowpipe positioner is all about. So the way that it works is that there are 3 O-rings, and one O-ring with the 2 buckles attaches to your blowpipe stock. And then you have O-rings with the black webbing that attach to the bass drone stock and the middle tenor stock. And when you slide them down all the way to the bottom, takes a little bit of tugging, but that O-ring is nice and strong and stretchy. It'll hold there secure at the bottom. So then what you're going to do is put the webbing through the buckles and snug them up till they're nice and tight. Then when you get your pipes up and you're playing them, you can shorten those 2 webbing straps just the right amount to get that blowpipe angle to be just at the perfect position so your mouthpiece will be positioned right in your mouth at the perfect ergonomic position. Ideally, what you'll be able to do is let go of the blowpipe with your teeth in your mouth and it just stays right there. This has been a very popular product for pipers of all different levels of experience, from beginners just trying to get up on the pipes all the way up to professionals who are looking for every way to increase their stamina and comfort. So as I mentioned before, you do not want to use hemp on your blowpipe joint because there's so much moisture going. You're blowing right into your bag. That hemp joint will get the wettest of any joint. So I like to use my wax nylon lacing tape, and I start by holding it vertically along the tenon, and then I wrap that first layer nice and snug right over the loose end, and it holds it tight. The other thing is to leave a little bit of a gap there at the bottom, close to the projecting mount, and leave a little bit of a gap towards the end. You don't want to wind it all the way across, because what happens is when you push the joint into the stock, it squishes it down and it spreads it out a little bit. So you want to have a little bit of a gap there on either side for it to spread out. Nice and snug, trim it off, and then what I'm going to do is take my waxed dental floss, which is thinner, just to add a thin layer of that, and it will be perfect and nice and snug. I do not do a knot. I don't tie it in any way. The wax will hold it in nice and snug. If you want to get some of this wax nylon lacing tape, the link is in the description below. Now that we've got our bag totally set up and our blowpipe, mouthpiece, and valve all set up, the next thing we need to do is attach our drone cords. So the drone cords have a function where they hold the drones together. So when your base drone's on your shoulder, the other two drones just don't go falling off the end of your arm. It's basically two styles. There's wool or silk. Silk seems to be more popular these days, has kind of a silky feel, a shininess to it, as opposed to the wool, which is kind of woolly. Comes in lots of different options, in solid colors or multicolor. You can find something that matches your uniform or something that doesn't match. It's kind of fun to have it be a little bit of a contrast as well. Once you've unwrapped your cords, we need to attach them starting with the outside tenor. The reason we want to start from the outside tenor is we want to get the length of the cords and the tassel that's hanging out the outside tenor, which is outside of your left arm. And then we want to go from that direction all the way to the middle tenor and then the base, because if the cords are too long, when we're all finished at the very end, if we have a little bit of extra length, we can tie a knot or two to use up that extra length. So that's why we want to start from the outside tenor and move in towards our head. The way we're going to attach our cords is to use these little tiny cable ties. I use the black ones. Traditionally, we used needle and thread, but I don't know too many people who do that anymore. We use these cable ties. They are really easy to install and to remove, and they hold very tight. So I want to make sure that that length of cord that I have hanging off the outside of my outside tenor is about 4 or 5 inches. I don't want a bunch of extra length dangling around there. It's about 4 or 5 inches. And then we use our little cable tie, nice and snug. You want to make sure that the cords are tight around that groove on the top of the drone top, which is called the cord guide or the cord holder. We want it to be nice and snug in there so it doesn't pop out. Don't worry, even when it's snug, that drone will be able to turn nicely inside that cord. So each one of the cable ties nice and snug so they don't slide, and also nice and tight up against the drone so the cord doesn't pop out. Next thing we're going to do is move to the middle tenor, and you want to make sure that the cords are not twisted or knotted up. I like about 6 inches of spacing between my drones. If you look at some older pictures of pipers from previous generations, they would often have a wider spacing, but I think these days most pipers like a more narrower spacing. It keeps the drones more compact, they're easier to tune. Also, the drones stay on your shoulder better and they don't pull away from you. I think the closer spaced drones is just a more ergonomic solution. Now we move on to the middle section of the base. There is no cord holder here, so the cords can be a little bit looser on that drone, but it's below the projecting mount and above the wider part of the drone. Again, we want it to be 6 inches or so that it matches, so when you're playing, they're evenly spaced. Now we're going to go to the base drone top. It has the cord holder, just like the tenor drones have. You want to have a little bit of slack so that it's easy for you to take your pipes apart and put them back together. So when it goes from the middle section up to the top of the base, a little bit of slack there in the drone. You want the cable ties nice and tight so they don't slide on the cords, and you want them nice and close to each other so that the cord stays in the cord holder of the drone. Now we can cut off our excess cable tie length that we don't need, throw those out. Now the final thing we're going to do is we're going to deal with this long piece of cord and the tassel that hangs off the base drone. But before we do that, I want to hemp up this joint here. Again, I'm using my wax nylon lacing tape. I start with a piece that goes vertically on the slide, hold it with my thumb, and then wrap over that piece with the wrapping to keep it nice and tight. I'm pulling pretty hard here so that it's snug. You do not want to do it loose, because then what can happen is the hemp will be fine, but the hemp will separate from the wood, and then you'll have what we call spinning hemp. And the only solution to that is to cut the whole thing off and start again. So wrap and then test it in the joint, wrap a little bit more, test it in the joint. Every time you're testing it, it's compressing down a little bit, so you might need to add a little bit more. Keep doing that. If you find it's too tight, take some off. It's just trial and error until you get just snug enough that you can move it, but it doesn't move on its own, or it's not too easy to move. And then for a final wrapping, I always use my waxed dental floss because it's thin. It just gives me just the right amount so it's nice and snug, not too tight, not too loose. Trim off the end with some scissors, smash it in, good to go. So now this is really cool. We're going to take up some of this excess length and connect this dangling tassel off the base to the part of the tassel that goes between the two sections of the bass drone with a simple overhand knot. Go under that section and then a simple overhand knot. And if you have a little bit more excess length that you want to take up, do another knot, same thing, overhand knot, tassel comes down, and then I snug up those two knots next to each other, and it has a really cool look. Depending on the length of your cords, maybe one knot is all you need, or two, or I've even had cords where I have 3 knots. It's a beautiful look, classic look, gets rid of that excess length, and you're good to go. So there we go. We got our drone tops all set up, beautifully spaced at 6 inches with a little bit of slack. Great, so let's sum up what we've done so far. You've unpacked your pipes, you've attached your dry flow moisture control system, and tied in your Bannatyne hybrid pipe bag with the water trap, tube, and bottle. You've attached your mouthpiece with the valve and used that rubber mouthpiece protector that comes with your perfect angle blowpipe positioner. You know how to wrap your joints and slides with wax nylon lacing tape and finish it off with dental floss for a tougher, longer lasting, more moisture resistant fit. And I've shown you how to install your drone cords with the perfect spacing and that lovely knot for a classic stylish look that keeps your tassels and cords at the perfect length. In my next video, we'll complete the bagpipe building process, and I'll show you how to thread your drone reed seats so your drone reeds never fall out, and how to install your new set of drone reeds. We'll set up the pipe chanter with the tone protector humidity controlling chanter cap, and we'll look at selecting reeds from the tone protector reed case. Finally, I'll show you the secrets for oiling your pipes to protect them and prevent them from getting cracked. I've put links to everything in this video in the description below, including all of the supplies and tools I've used. Remember, everything in this video is exactly the same way I set up my own pipes, and everything is something that I personally recommend. One of the secrets to playing well and enjoying your piping more is having pipes that are set up to sound great, feel great, and stay in tune. So check out all of the links below to get these great items for yourself. And please check out the bagpipelessons.com YouTube channel for part 2 of this video and for all of my other great videos. I created bagpipelessons.com to help you achieve your dream to be a piper, regardless of your age, previous experience, or where you live in the world. So please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the notification bell to stay updated when we post new videos. When you subscribe, it lets YouTube know that you like my videos and helps me grow the channel by recommending my videos to other pipers who might find them useful too. For more free resources, including videos, lessons, and free guides, make sure to head over to bagpipelessons.com/learn and download my free PDF guide called How to Achieve a World-Class Bagpipe Sound. The link is in the description below. If you're looking to take your piping to the next level, please check out my bagpipelessons.com Inner Circle. With your membership, you gain full access to the very best of everything at bagpipelessons.com. This includes weekly live interactive classes for pipers of all skill levels led by me and world champion guest instructors. You also get access to my exclusive lesson library filled with hundreds of videos, tunes, exercises, demonstrations, and more, covering every topic in piping from music theory to technique to tuning, maintenance, setup, and so much more. And you get personalized support from me to help you reach your piping goals. To find out more about joining my inner circle, please visit bagpipelessons.com/membership. Thanks for watching and happy piping.